Arise international correspondent Faith Orr is in Chicago with the latest updates and joins us now. Faith, if you can hear me, can you tell us what's the current status of the convention preparations?
So the main part of the event will get underway later on today, and we are expecting President Joe Biden to take to the stage, as I said in my report there, to hand over the baton to Kamala Harris. Now, I don't know if you can hear, but there are various helicopters flying around. This is a huge security operation here in Chicago. We're seeing, it's not an exaggeration to say that there are crowds of police officers on every street corner, barriers everywhere. Parts of the highway have been shut down solely for use by the delegates. So this is a city that is really preparing not just for all of the delegates, but for all of the protesters that are also expected to crowd the streets around United Center later today.
All right, so let's talk about, the thousands of activists that are expected to converge in Chicago this week, of course, hoping to call attention to not just abortion rights, economic injustice, but to the war in Gaza. How exactly do you think that's going to affect the DNC convention taking place over the next few days?
Around 200 permits for protests have been issued. The main protests we are going to see are today, Monday, when Biden is on stage, and Thursday, when Kamala Harris speaks. Now, it is, as I mentioned, a huge security operation, so they will be kept well back from the actual event centre itself, but that we will see the protests, we will see crowds of people on the streets. Many people here are comparing it to the 1968 convention, when of course the Democratic Convention was besieged by those protests against the Vietnam War. Now, that year, the Republicans went on to win because that simply split the party apart. That's not expected to happen this year. The Democrats are holding together on this issue, but we are going to see lots and lots of protests. Many of them we expect to be peaceful, but we are also seeing calls for things to be more disruptive, for there to be some unrest, for the convention to actually really be affected by this. But police are aware of that and they are ready for it.
All right, then. So let's talk about the speakers that we're expecting. I know that Joe Biden is expected to address the delegates today. We're expecting other high hitters like Obama and of course another person that did run for the same office, Hillary Clinton. But what other speakers? What's the lineup like? What are the themes over the next couple of days?
Exactly, as you said there, we are expecting Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton today. We expect Biden not just to praise Harris, but also to speak a little bit about what the achievements have been over the past few years, to speak a bit about his presidency before he then kind of has the rallying cry for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. We will also hear from Dr. Jill Biden this evening, as well as you mentioned there, Hillary Clinton. Tomorrow we expect Barack Obama to take to the stage, and then on Wednesday we are going to hear from Bill Clinton before we hear from Harris's running mate Tim Walz, and then Thursday, of course, Harris herself closes out the event with her acceptance speech. Now, interestingly, on Tuesday there will be what's being described as a ceremonial roll call, because normally at these events, this is when the nominee, Harris in this case, is officially nominated. But that already happened. That happened virtually on August the 6th. But they are going to have a sort of ceremony about that so that they can celebrate it anyway. And she will then give her acceptance speech. So that's the lineup that we're looking at for this week.
All right, then, Faith, I'd like to just touch on very quickly. I mean, you did say that Kamala Harris was going to have, hard time to, of course, address the delegates on Thursday. But I wonder, one thing that has come up is her economic policies, which has been, of course, criticized by her opponents, her Republican counterpart, Donald Trump, and his running mate, J.D. Vance. Do you reckon that that's going to be a focus of her speech on Thursday?
I think her speech will touch on many, many things. I mean, what was interesting to me, actually, just in the taxi from O'Hare Airport into Chicago, was the conversation that they were having on the radio. It was much like the conversations that you hear in Nigeria. It was all about the cost of food. It was all about inflation. This seems to be a worldwide conversation that is being had. And the taxi driver that I had, he spoke to me a little about it, and he said, you know, just for him and his wife, they are spending hundreds of dollars on groceries. But he recognises also that the Republicans are simply trying to score a political point on this, and that things wouldn't necessarily be any different if Trump was to win and get in office, because it is a worldwide issue. What people here seem to be slightly more concerned about is almost with city officials. There is a sense of unjustness that the city has been cleaned up, that the pavements are clean, that the roads have been fixed because the kind of political bigwigs are coming to town. And, you know, I spoke to people and they said, well, you know, they can do it if they want to, but we're not important enough. And that is the sort of sense that you get here. People are inconvenienced, people are annoyed that they can't walk and drive the normal routes that they are taking. But on a national scale, I think very key for Harris to get her points across. Trump is still going to try and steal the limelight this week, though, make no mistake about that.
Thank you so much, Faith. Looking dapper in purple. And we'll continue to monitor this story even as you bring this live from Chicago. Thank you so much.